Hey, TWC team. My name's Adam Vaught. I'm coming to you from beautiful Irvine, California, where I actually just returned after spending 6 months in Ecuador. I saw on your Facebook page that Ecuador is going to be the first destination that you guys visit, which made me that much more excited about potentially being able to join the team. The travel experience I wanted to tell you about is one that I had in Vietnam in 2005. Over the past 6 or so years, I've had a number of experiences with voluntourism, whether it be as a trip participant, as part of the team that organizes the trips, or as a tour guide leading the trips. But I chose this one in particular because it was my first voluntourism experience, and also because it was one of the most profound travel experiences that I've had. Uh, a year before going on the Vietnam trip, I had traveled to Southeast Asia for the first time. I traveled in Thailand and Malaysia. And as a kid who grew up in a pretty thick bubble of Southern California, to travel in Southeast Asia for the first time, it was definitely an eye-opening experience. I saw a level of poverty that I had never experienced before, and it really forced me to ask myself a lot of questions about the idea of being a traveler, what it meant, and kind of ideas behind where you invest your money, where you invest your time. These questions all led me in the direction of joining this voluntourism trip a year later. I joined the trip without a really solid understanding of what I would be doing, uh, outside of where I would be traveling, and knowing that some of the money that I was spending on the trip was going to be uh, given to or used to help the communities that we'd be visiting. And at the time, that was enough for me. I was excited about the trip. I was happy to join. And in the end, the travel experience that we had, traveling across Vietnam, was a phenomenal experience. I think every one of us that joined the trip would agree. What we did, what we saw, what we ate, it was a great trip. The voluntourism side of the trip, I think, left myself and a few others on the program with a lot of unanswered questions. The voluntourism aspects actually involved visiting schools, spending some time with the kids, taking pictures, and then having a ceremony in which the participants, ourselves, were handing envelopes of cash directly to these kids. For some of us, this it didn't really sit that well, and left us with a lot of questions. In particular, the idea of how would this work if this was going on back in the U.S. It would be completely unacceptable to think that a group of foreigners could show up at a school and just hand cash directly to kids. And if it's not acceptable in our culture, why would it be acceptable in theirs? These were conversations that we wanted to have, and we kind of deferred to the organizers of the trip, thinking that they were the ones that would be able to provide us with those answers. In the end, I think we all felt that the answers they were providing were more geared at placating us, and making sure that we felt like we were making a difference, rather than really proving to us that the money that was being given was going to have some sort of lasting impact on the lives of these kids. Uh, a lot of us felt that what we were doing was just merely a band aid, and that in the long run, a band aid's not going to do much on such a gaping wound. So, the questions you guys ask in terms of the impact of the experience, I think the impact on me personally was huge. Uh, it forced me to ask myself a lot of further questions about voluntourism, about how it can be done right, how it's being done wrong. It led me to involve myself in organizations that I felt were doing it right, or were at least on the path towards doing it right. They were asking themselves the right questions. They were being very critical of themselves and pushing in the right direction. It led me to being involved in voluntourism projects in Cambodia, in Peru, tourism development projects in India, in Morocco, uh, and definitely helped to shape my my beliefs and my ideas about voluntourism done right and voluntourism done wrong. In terms of whether we felt the trip made a real difference, I think that the answer to that was definitely no. I think the organizers wanted us to feel that it was making a difference, uh, but and maybe in the short term it did. I mean, there was no follow up done in terms of how that money got spent. It was just cash given to kids, and we were told that it would be used for them to go to school. But at the end of the day, there's no way of knowing how that money was actually used. or what the long-term impacts are of sending a group of foreigners into a rural part of Vietnam and having them hand cash to kids. Uh, so whether it made a difference or not, I'm sure it made some difference. I just don't know what that difference was and whether it was a positive one or a negative one. But I do think it left me with this idea that volunteerism can be a very powerful tool, and there are very positive ways to do it, but there's also a lot of examples of very negative ways in which it's being done. Uh, I wish you guys the best of luck in your search for a host. I hope to have a chance to meet you guys sometime in the near future. And thank you very much for the opportunity.